Hello and welcome to our 8th Conversation to Connect. Let's Get Real, powered by Exceptional Connections. I'm CyndiONeill-Dady, the founder and chief connector of Exceptional Connections since 2009. And at Exceptional Connections, we offer intentional and innovative solutions to boost your business. So each week I nominate a different member of our community to be able to have this conversation with. And it's my honor to be able to talk to and have a discussion with Rachel Young from Woodinville, Washington. Our topic today is going to be 5 self-care strategies for busy entrepreneurs. And Rachel and I had an opportunity before this call to chat, and she has such an amazing background and career and life experience. And, you know, in lieu of just reading her bio, we thought we'd have just a conversation to give you that background. And then in the midst of that, Rachel's heart is to be able to share her 5 self-care strategies for mompreneurs, busy entrepreneurs, and be able to make this relevant. So thank you for joining our call, Rachel.
Well, thank you for having me. It's an honor to be here.
Well, it's wonderful to be able to have this conversation with you, and so timely. And so let's set the stage for our listeners about kind of a little bit about your journey, and then have you share your 5 self-care strategies.
Yeah. So my background is actually as a broadcast journalist. I did that for almost 20 years. I left 1 year ago this month. And that was a really difficult decision. I spent, my childhood dreaming of doing that. And I got to live out that dream, so to speak. I have 2 Emmy Awards to my name. So I did reach a level that, was recognized, I guess, so to speak. But along the way, I just experienced certain things that I was willing to sacrifice a lot for that career. And in many ways, I still am. I think it's a wonderful, like I mentioned, I wanted to be a journalist since I was a child. So I knew going in what I was signing up for, right? You're working holidays, overnights, weekends. Sometimes you meet people on the worst day of their life. I mean, that's just the truth of the matter. But I do feel passionate about making sure people are informed about the things that are happening in our world, especially right now. And so it was a calling. I mean, really, being a journalist was a calling. But, life happened. And I have a husband. I have a 11-year-old son, 10. He keeps reminding me, he's almost 11. And I have a daughter who's 7. And I was experiencing what I think a lot of people do mid-career. So about 16 years into my career, I was like, this is really great. And I've reached a level that I'm so grateful to have reached. But I don't know, I'm starting to hit a little bit of either a plateau mentally. At the particular station I was with, I was experiencing, seeing the glass ceiling. Like I had hit a point where, despite the awards and despite my work in the community and the to be honest, the reviews of my managers were very positive. It was clear I wasn't going to be able to reach another level unless I wanted to make a major move with my life, which is exactly what brought me here to Seattle. And so I started looking in other directions, and I thought, maybe that could be public relations. A lot of journalists end up as communications managers for a city. I was looking into other things, but none of that really seemed to appeal to the work-life balance that I was seeking. And I know that that's a term that we sort of throw around, but that's what I was looking for. I was looking for flexibility. I was looking for unlimited potential and growth. I really wanted to be a student of something. I just didn't know what it was going to be. So it certainly didn't seem like starting my own business makes complete sense. Like in my brain, I'm like, okay, maybe I should go get my master's degree, and what would I get that in? And then my cousin who got her MBA was like, don't go spend $30,000, $50,000 and take out loans if you don't really know what you're going to do with that degree. You have enough skills, you have enough, curiosity about things that you could really find something. And just when she said that, I was given an opportunity, or I was presented with an opportunity to start my own online skincare business. And so that on the surface looked like, okay, cool. I'm going to have this little side hustle. That's awesome. How do I fit this in? And like, how lame is that? Like, I'm going to start a skincare business when I have no sales experience. I have no business experience. I loved the products. They were awesome. People were complimenting me on my skin. I'm like, okay, cool. But can I really do this? And does this really fit into my life? You know, that was where it went. And then fast forward to where we are now. I have been in business I'm celebrating 5 years at the end of the year, which for small business, you know, that's a big
Congratulations.
milestone. Thank you. And I left last year the news business. So I had been working my side business while as a journalist, which was not easy. I can this time when opportunity and also building my broadcast business career was just skyrocketing. I mean, I really had reached a level that was, I think from the outset, looked perfect. I mean, I really was at the #1 TV station in the Seattle area. I have my husband and my children, and it just looked amazing. I mean, from the outset, everybody was like, you have it all. And you know what? I did. But along the way, I forgot the most basic things about taking care of myself. And I found myself very sad, unfulfilled. Yes, tired. I mean, what mother is not tired when you're waking up early and you're raising a family and you're more than that. It was a constant struggle to feel fulfilled by all the things that I had in my life. And I realized, oh, I have to really face some music here. Self-care isn't even in the picture. What am I doing daily to fill my cup first so that I can pour into the things that are priority in my life? And I think as people here in this community, I think we all need to take stock at some point and say, this is great, but what am I taking care of this? And some might say, wow, that's really selfish. I put a little question out on my Instagram story and my Facebook story yesterday, and I was surprised to see the answer. I put, is self-care selfish or selfless? And 33% of people that took that question said selfish. And I was like, what? How is that selfish to take care of yourself? But anyway, so that's a little bit.
I love that. Thank you for bringing us up to speed. And I love really that you were sensitive. I mean, you said you had it all. You know, you had your career, you had your family, your husband, you know, so many blessings in your life. And in the midst of that, you were able to take stock and realize that there was something missing. And the question I love to always be able to ask myself is, what's missing, the presence of which would make a difference? And that's really what you were doing, right? You took stock of the fact that I have it all and I'm not taking care of myself. And you know, you have to be able to do that in order to do that. You know, the whole analogy of the airline, when they tell you to put your mask on first.
Yes, absolutely.
You know, you talk about that. And so you had that epiphany. So talk to us now about, you know, what happened once you had that realization and you had the opportunity to have another side hustle, side gig, and you're, you know, reevaluating like what your next steps are. Talk to us about the work-life balance issues. And I know it sounds very trite. We talk about that a lot, but it's important, right?
Well, the great thing is a lot of you here in the Exceptional Connections community witnessed this. You saw it happen, and you probably didn't even know that I was going through it. But I would run into, there's a couple members that go to my church, and one of them stopped me at church one day and said, she's like, I hope that what I'm saying to you doesn't strike you as you know, you're not offended. And I was like, what? Like, she had this like look of concern, and she said, I was looking at you in services this morning and you just look very sad. And
Mm.
I want to know whatever I can do to help you. You don't have to share with me what's going on, but she didn't know what I was going through, but she could see it. Like that was
Mm.
scary to me. That was terrifying to me. And then of course, what they don't know and what you don't see, of course, because we all follow each other on social media and it looks perfect. My
Right.
husband and I have a wonderful marriage. We're celebrating 13 years this year and we have 2 wonderful kids. But my struggles and my mental health struggles and the physical struggles of getting up at 2 o'clock in the morning every day for 12 out of the last 20 years
Wow.
to tell you some of the things that happened overnight, which I still believe is very important. I think we need to be informed and I think you need to have trusted journalists out there, but it was coming at a cost. So when you are constantly waking up at 2 o'clock in the morning and you're not, you're trying to do everything. I'm trying to be at my kids' school, recitals and soccer games, and then also going to my husband's performances. My husband is a talented musician, and I want to be the focused, dedicated wife who's not yawning in the audience because he's so, and so all of that, the stress and the lack of sleep was taking a toll on my marriage. And my children saw a mother that was very, they would say, "Why are you crying again?" I mean, when you're tired and exhausted, for me, that's what came out, was like anger, frustration, sadness, and it's not their fault. My 7-year-old's not asking, so there were a lot of wake up calls,
Sure.
a lot of wake up calls, but I would get on the back end, messages like, "Oh, you look so great on television. What dress are you wearing? Look at that lip color. Oh my gosh, I've got to know who does your hair. Where do you do your makeup? Who does your makeup for you?" I'm like, well, I do all that myself because it's not as glamorous as you think it is. Like we all do our hair and our makeup for television, and most places are. Maybe the Today Show has their own staff, but we don't. And I was so baffled by the amount of people that said, "You look amazing." But then there were a few people that knew me so well that they knew something was wrong. And I didn't want to admit it to myself. I didn't want to admit that I was ignoring some of the basic self-care things that all of us need to be doing. I don't care what level of business or career you're at. You need to take stock. At some point, you need to sit down and say, okay, how well am I doing with sleep? How well am I doing with my diet? How well am I doing with my spiritual health? How well am I doing with exercise? How well am I doing with, am I signing up for too many things? It's like, it's there at some point you have to, and I think this pandemic is showing us, right? What do we need to take stock of? What was so important to me 4 months ago? Because I'll tell you what, I signed up for everything and anything. I spoke at every event. I just said yes to everything because I thought that's what I needed to do.
Mm-hmm.
But in the midst of this pandemic and over the last calendar year since leaving the news industry, and let me just preface this and say, I don't recommend everybody here quit your job. I'm not saying that. I'm just saying, for me, that's what I had to give up. I had to sacrifice something, and that was the career that I had built over 20 years, and I'd worked so hard at it. But I knew to give the best of me, I couldn't do that anymore.
Right.
So I couldn't serve all these things, and specifically myself and my husband and my children, if something else was taking too much from me. And I tried, here's the thing. I had very frank conversations with my managers, and to this day, they commend me for it. Maybe they don't commend me, they respect me for it. And
Sure.
so having those conversations of like, listen, this isn't your, this isn't a knock on this television station. I'm just at a point where I need to take care of myself, and I just couldn't fight and play this part anymore. I couldn't fake it. And like you said, Chuck, I had choices. I mean, I had this business that was already thriving, and I was only doing it part-time. And I thought, well, gosh, if I'm only doing it, 10 hours a week in my spare time, like what spare time did I have when I'm covering the news? But if I was only doing this 10 hours a week, what if I did it 20 hours? What about 25? Because you know what? That's less than me working full time, 10 hours onto my business, and then the leftovers go to my husband and my children. Like, what if I just took a bit of a leap of faith? And then also in the time that I'm taking away, I'm working on this, and I'm paying attention to those things that haven't been paid attention to. So that's what I did.
I love that. I love that you're taking a reality check and you're grading yourself. And we all need to do that at times. We all need to stop and say, okay, like you say, how am I doing on my sleep? How am I taking care of myself? Am I taking care of myself? And if we're not, implementing things one by one to be able to put ourselves first so that we can take care of others. And I love what you were saying about not being selfish. Self-care is not selfish.
Not at all.
It really isn't. And we need to change that, that paradigm. So I love you talking about like where you came from, your journey, this transition. So take us through, the self-care strategy number 1.
Okay.
What is that for you? And how did that manifest?
So I realized very, very quickly after leaving my broadcasting career, because okay, let's back up for a second. Here's what a typical day was prior to May 31st of 2019, which was the last day that I worked in television. This was a typical day. Okay, this is not an exaggeration. 2:00 in the morning, my alarm goes off. I'm scrolling my phone. Okay, what happened overnight? Where's my emails? Okay, what did the president say? Okay, I'm anchoring today. Okay, let me get dressed. So I'm showering and changing. I'm putting my makeup. I got my hair in rollers. It's now 3:00 in the morning. I got to drive across the 520, get to Seattle, read the scripts, touch up the makeup real quick, run on the air with my earpiece, do the news. So, okay, like do the job. And then after you sign off, then you've got to, come up with a story and go shoot the story and come back. And, by that time it's noon. So I've already been at this for 10 hours. Okay, this is true. And I might have eaten breakfast somewhere around 7 a.m., maybe 8. And then I'm hopping in my car and I might be driving at, 11 if I got off early, and showing up at Exceptional Connections and pouring into the group there and like networking with people and telling them about my business and all that. And then I get home and, oh, wait, let me go for a quick run because I've got to get some exercise in there. And, oh, wait, my son has to get out of school early for a doctor's appointment. So I got to run there and then bring him back, then pick up my daughter. And then, oh, they have Kumon after school. So I got to take them to Kumon and then work with them on homework and then make dinner. And, oh, wait, my husband's just home. Oh, hi, sweetheart. Great to see you. Oh, yeah, I'm exhausted. Yeah. Going to bed at 7, but really, because I'm so wound up, I can't really sleep. So I'm praying. And my prayers sound something like a 15-second, God, thank you so much for this day. I'm healthy. My kids are safe. And thank you for this beautiful home. And help tomorrow be a better day. Amen. And going to sleep. But sleep didn't really happen till maybe 9:30, sometimes 10, because I'm so, Yeah. And by the way, when you're that depleted, you aren't eating well. Guess what you're eating? You're eating just processed junk, like, because it's quick, it's fast, it's in your purse, and Exceptional Connections, you're just chowing down on that awesome salad bar. Oh my gosh, the salad bar. And you're just going. And you know what? On the outside, no one knows.
Right.
Everyone thinks it's beautiful and perfect. And you know what? There are a lot of aspects of my life that were perfect. I mean, everything I wanted, I prayed for, I have. beautiful home, nice car, husband works and is successful and loyal to me. And I've got these amazing, healthy children who are hilarious. But I had nothing left at the end of the day. So fast forward, what's a typical day like for me now? Whew, I love it. I love saying this. So one of the things that I said I knew I could do was be in bed by 10, maybe 9:30. But last night I stayed up late and I watched the Michael Jordan documentary, and I was addicted to it, so I watched it. But so most days I'm going to bed by 10 now, and most mornings I'm up by 5. That's just, my body loves that time. I don't know why. I think it's also God telling me, like, hey, get up, because the rest of the house is going to need you in about 3 hours. You got it. Let's go.
Bonus time,
I mean,
right?
it's like, I don't even have to set an alarm anymore.
Wow.
Speaking of which, my alarm is now my watch. It is not my phone. My phone stays in the, I keep it away from me. So it's probably in the bathroom, and I turn off the ringer so it doesn't go off in the middle of the night. And one of the reasons I keep it in the bathroom is because if I do get up in the middle of the night, I have to find it. It's not right next to me, and the blue light is not in my face. Okay.
Yeah, that's a great strategy.
Yeah.
I do the same thing.
Yeah. So 10 o'clock, I'm in bed. I wake up around 5 and I reach for this. Like I usually clean a different bottle and I put it next to my bed at night, because as soon as you wake up, you've been asleep for hopefully 6 to 8 hours. You haven't had any water. Like, self-care starts the moment
Stay hydrated.
you get up. Yeah. And find out, how much are you drinking a day?
Mm-hmm.
Like, drink that water pretty regularly, right? So the water comes first. Then the other thing I've been doing, especially during this whole pandemic, is getting out of my pajamas as soon as possible, and I'm getting the workout clothes on. So I'm groggy, I'm drinking my water, I've got my workout clothes, I go downstairs, I have my favorite chair with my journals and some, scripture. I read scripture every morning. For some people, that just might be some positive affirmations, anything to keep you grounded and focused. And I'm brewing my coffee. So I don't have coffee until I've had 8 ounces of this. It's just a rule that I have. And my time, that 30 minutes of centering, praying, and gratitude, writing down 3 things that I'm grateful for, my intentions for the day. Oh my gosh, I so look forward to waking up in the morning. I just do.
I love that.
Another strategy I've found is, I am a news junkie, and I think it's important to be informed of what's happening in the world, but I limit my news consumption now. I might take 15 to 20 minutes of the top headlines of the morning, and then I turn it off. Like, that happened this morning. I wanted to hear the latest on COVID. I wanted to know what the weather was. And then the second they started talking about who shot who and who died, and I was like, okay, I gotta go. So turn that off. I get outside or work out if it's a total, disaster outside. I will do some kind of 20 to 45 minutes of cardio, pumping something or other, some kind of exercise to get me like going. And so then by this time it's like 7 a.m., 7:15, 7:30, and then I'm showered and changed, and I'm like, I work from home now with my business, so I don't really have to be all glamorous for television. Like, my beauty regimen used to take me 30 minutes to be ready for television. The skincare, and then the makeup, and then the hair, and then the accessories, and now it's like 10 minutes. I love it. Getting ready for this, I was like, okay, here, I'm ready. And my work is focused from 8 to 9 in the morning. I have a power hour that I log into, and I work focused. 9:15, guess who gets the attention? Guess who gets the best of me now?
I love it.
My husband gets a really nice breakfast, although I don't know, maybe he'd plug in and be like, it wasn't that great. My kids get their breakfast, and I log them into their e-distance e-learning situation. And then while they're in their e-learning, then I might have a call with a client, and so then I'm paying attention to my customers and my business again. And I'm sort of like doing this back and forth thing. Whereas if you heard what I told you, how I was a year ago, God and focus and commitment and that centering came very last, at the very end of my day. And it was for like 30 seconds, maybe a minute. And now I'm spending 30 in the morning before everyone needs me. I am true. I've hydrated myself. I've taken care of the basic needs, like the exercise and the spiritual and the and
Yes.
all of these things, so that I can serve him. For me, that's him. You know, like for those of you who are not
Yes.
believers, it's your creator, the universe. So you can serve the universe at its best, and then you can pour into your partner, your children, your family, your relationships, your business, your coworkers. Like if you put all that first, and the part of you that needs to be fed physically, spiritually, and emotionally, oh my gosh, you're going to end up like me. Like it was a very hard year. But when I came to that realization, the peace I notice in my life is so much different, and it's showing in my business. It's showing, you know, like if you really want to bring this to a business communication conversation, just in the since February, okay, listen to this, since February, my business has tripled. I mean, what? We're in a pandemic. What do you mean my business has tripled? Well, listen, I took care of myself.
Yes.
I focused on what the priorities were, which were my health, my spiritual health and needs, my family, my relationships. And then I was able to give better to that business, to my clients, to my teammates. And that in turn has helped my business. And I work online now. I work in an online skincare business, which on the surface looks like I help people look pretty. And maybe I do, but I do more than that. I'm able to plug into a company that has trained me well. I'm not a trained salesperson. I'm not an esthetician. I'm just a real, enthusiastic lover of this amazing company. And I've been with them now almost 5 years. I wouldn't be doing it if it wasn't fulfilling in some way. So on the surface, it looks like, right? Like most people are like, oh gosh, she just left this television career to sell eye cream. I mean, okay, if that's what you think, but that's not what I did. I had this business as, what looked like a plan B, and maybe it was, maybe it wasn't. And it gave me the courage to say, enough with the madness, enough with not taking care of myself. I have this opportunity right now to say, look, what do you want to be in 5 years? Do you want to be the exhausted, maybe a possibly single mother, because I don't know how long my husband was going to tolerate the way I was acting. And are your children going to know you, or is the public going to know you better because you poured more into the TV life than you did into your personal health and growth and prosperity? And like, what do you want to be in 5 years?
Right.
I mean, where do you see yourself? So
that's great to be able to ask yourself that question, very self-aware. And there's so many things I want to just share here, as we transition through this conversation, and just acknowledging you on how, the power of being transparent, the power of listening to your gut. And when we do that, we don't know what world events are going to occur, but it seems to all work out. That's what I'm finding. If we listen to ourselves, we're going to be okay. And I just want to acknowledge you for that. So I want to make sure that we recap here, because you had some really amazing points that they seem commonplace, but in the context of self-care, they get lost, right? So number one, you were saying that self-care begins the moment you wake up, right?
Yes. Self-care is the moment you wake up. The
And
moment.
thank you for outlining, your steps in the contrast between your journalism career and your life now. It's beautiful. Number two, dress the part,
Oh,
right?
yes. Dress
So
the part.
that's when you're talking about like getting out of your jammies, right? And
Yeah.
getting set up for success for the day. Number three, spending time in meditation, prayer, and being grateful. That's so important, isn't it? Just having that mindset.
Absolutely. You got to know where you're centered.
Yes, yes. To ground yourself with your core beliefs and your routines. Number four, get moving, right? Exercise.
Yep.
Keep that body moving and make that part of your routine. Or number four and number five, get ready, get set. Start your work and check your work. So those are the five things that you wanted to talk about, and you outlined, so beautifully. In the midst of that, you're incorporating your relationship with your kids, and in the midst of the pandemic, homeschooling them and kind of mentoring, managing that process for them. So I love that you were saying, and I just wanted to kind of recap there for a moment, but I love the way you were encouraging the mompreneurs, the solopreneurs, the benefit of asking yourself hard questions.
Mm-hmm.
So that's where we're at right now, is to be real with ourselves, in terms of like how much sleep you're getting, who are you giving to, at what cost, frankly, to look good. So thank you for being so transparent with that, because that's something that a lot of us deal with. It. We don't have to be a journalist and in the camera's eye to have that challenge in our lives.
And I just happen to live that out publicly, right? I just happen to be, but I think everyone watching at some point has had to take stock and said, okay, wait a minute. And if you haven't taken stock, you got to ask yourself to. And it might be a little scary. I'm not going to lie to you. A year ago, I was terrified. I was scared, but I had my faith. Why would that be on my heart? To leave something that was so steady, right? Like, why would that be on my heart? It didn't come from it didn't just come out of the sky, right? It really, I was living it. I was seeing it. And the whispers that are in your life, like I saw myself not only unhealthy, just eating junk, not feeling good, not looking good. I mean, if you want to go vanity here, it just didn't look good. I could feel my relationships suffering. So if you're, check your relationships, how are those? Like, if you've got, like, I was seeing my kids snapping back at me, and I'm like, what's that? They're reflecting me. They're reflecting that awful ugliness that I'm giving them. Mm-hmm. I notice my relationship with them now is just so much more like, it's playful, it's present. They ask me how my day is. My son, he's like, so Mom, how's your skincare going? Like, what? Like, you never asked like, how was that?
10-year-old, wow.
Yeah. My husband and I are constantly checking in with each other, and it's not like a, hey, what are we having for dinner kind of thing. Like, they're real conversations. And my clients who've known my story, my business partners who've known my story are like, wow. This isn't just life-changing skincare, because that's sort of the branding of Rodan & Fields, the skincare business I'm in, but it really is life-changing. I have changed my life, and I didn't see that happening, but I was scared. I mean, let's acknowledge for a second how scary that is, to go from an established, 20-year salary, benefits, like, let's just be honest about how scary that is.
Right.
However, if you have faith in what you've done and the foundation that you've laid, especially if those of you who are watching who have a side business, if your foundation is rock solid, go with it, build it, go, run. And if you don't have the answers on how to run, I am telling you, there's so many great coaches out there. Your company, your business, mentors are going to help you get there. You have to put in the work, though. And the work is going to be oftentimes up here.
Yes. It's
not necessarily here. I heard this morning on a call that I was on that it's not your skills that you're lacking. You don't need more degrees. You don't need more training calls. You need to change your attitude, share your passion, share what excites you. And that is attractive to people. People are attracted to whole, healthy, excited, fun people.
Yes.
And that's who you attract. And that's what can build your business.
Yes. And the right people will show up when you're ready.
Yes.
When you're ready.
Yes. I couldn't serve more people. I was already trying to serve too many without helping myself first. Right.
Right.
So
I love what you said about, because really, you were doing reality checks. We talked about asking questions and realizing there's different seasons. So not to take away from your passion for being a journalist and being a TV anchor and all the things that you accomplished. There were those seasons where I'm sure, I've talked to you in the past, they were very fulfilling and you loved them and you were energized with them. Yes. The distinction that I'm, from our conversation and even from my life is things change and we need to pay attention to the changing season, just like winter to, to spring and spring to summer. Pay attention to those shifts and realize, am I still being energized or is it depleting me?
Very well said.
Right?
Very, very well said. So as an example of that, when my position at the TV station changed, it wasn't like they were putting more work on me. I mean, I knew what to do. I knew how to do it. I had done it for 20 years. But that doesn't mean that's a dress. Like, Chuck, unfortunately, you can't relate to this, but for every woman that has that basic black dress in your closet, it looks great. You could wear it to multiple things. I mean, it's been there for like 10 years. Might be time to change that dress. It just doesn't fit anymore. It doesn't look good on you.
Doesn't fit the same.
It doesn't fit the same. You're not the same. Your body's not the same, right? So yeah, they gave me a role that I had complete knowledge and skill for, and even the energy in many ways. I could do it. And I did it well. In fact, the very first breaking news story they sent me on, I remember it very well. It was unfortunately a very sad situation on the 520 bridge. And after I mean, it was literally breaking news happening. Rachel's live. Let's go to Rachel. And I was just like, here it is. And And I filled all this time. And after I signed off, the producer gets in my ear and she's like, oh my gosh, that was so good. Oh my gosh, she's just giving me all these accolades and I'm getting all these emails like, oh, Rachel just nailed it, beat the competition, da, 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 da. And you live this high for a second. And then I was like, why do I feel like junk? Why does this feel junky? This doesn't feel good. Number one, I'm tired. Number two, I should be good at this. I've been doing this 20 years. But why does this not feel good? What is that? What is this third thing right here? And that's what I kept hearing.
Listening, yes.
So you got to listen to yourself when address or look at it, listen to it. If it doesn't look good, if it doesn't feel good, it's probably not good for you.
Right.
You need to give yourself permission to make a change.
Be fueled by our passion, right?
Yes.
Don't let, it's important not to get depleted. And when we notice we're being depleted by things we're doing that previously energized us, that's a wake-up call. Well, thank you. I love that. Okay, as we close here, as we kind of wrap things up, I want to be able to have you share with our listeners the epiphany, the contrast, and the confirmation you received with this COVID pandemic. So you and I talked about that, and I thought that was fascinating. I want to make sure we share this with our listeners, how you had a moment where you kind of questioned yourself because you got drawn into, right? the TV drama, and you're like, oh, so take us from there, Rachel. Take us from, oh, I should be there. I should be, out on the streets and giving the interviews.
So February 29th, my husband and I and our children are on a 2-day retreat at our church. I've never done a church retreat with my children, never done it before. And it was so awesome. And we really connected with the leaders of this retreat. And so we went out to dinner that night. And sure enough, here comes the breaking news alert first death in Washington state of COVID-19 in Kirkland. And I'm like, we're sitting right here in Kirkland right now. Oh my
Epicenter.
God. Yeah. Like, so of course the national media, the local media, it's all converged on Kirkland, Washington and the Life Care Center. And I'm like, I'm glued to it. I'm watching it round the clock. I just ate it all up. And I'm like, I'm texting all my former colleagues like, oh my gosh, I heard this. Is this true? Can you confirm this? Da, 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 da. My source, and I would say that, my source at blah, 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 blah would tell me this. Do you know this? Did you confirm this? I just got wrapped right into it. And then a part of me was like, I need to be there. This is what I should be doing. I should be helping. This is getting the information to the public, and like, they need to know that this is not fake news and that this is real. And then wake up call a week later, maybe 4 days later, our school district becomes the first district in the nation to shut down and to go online. And I looked at my husband and I was like, okay, how are we going to do this? Like, and he's like, well, we both work from home because I'm going to work from home. So are you. You have your office, the kids, we can set this up as a classroom. And I was like, okay, we're going to do this. So of course, there's part of me that's like, man, that stinks, right? But probably within a week of that, I was like, what am I doing? I am exactly where I need to be in a pandemic.
Yes.
My priority is the health of my husband and my children and my health, my physical and my emotional health. And I have the ability to work from home. Maybe it's not in television, and that's okay. I'm still providing for my family. I'm still here for them. I'm still leaving, I'm literally right after this call going to help my daughter with her math homework. My priorities are straight. And you know what? I can still be a source of information because I have been. I don't know if you've seen, I've done a number of TV interviews. People have, I had a former colleague of mine who works at the Fox affiliate. We were competitors, and he reached out to me and he's like, I've been watching your Facebook feed. You've got this classroom set up. Do you mind being interviewed? And I was like, that's different. Like, I've never been interviewed for
on the other side, right?
On the other side. But it's information, right? I'm giving people information.
Sure.
It's a version of what I used to do. I'm just not up at 2:00 in the morning giving it to you. So right. There's a version that if you listen to it and see it, you can still relay. And so in many ways, when you asked me, Cyndi, to come on here and to share, I'm like, okay, I have to be a little vulnerable here. I have to share some things that might be a little uncomfortable for me. But didn't I do that for some people on their worst day of their life? I came up to them, hi, I'm Rachel with, whatever station, and I'm sorry that this happened to you. Would you be willing to talk to me and share how you're feeling right now? Didn't I do that for 20 years?
Yes.
So I'm doing a version
of
what I used to do. And I think you can find that peace if you allow yourself, give that permission to yourself to do.
Right. And that's the common thread that I'm hearing with my conversations to connect, let's get real. And I appreciate you being real and vulnerable in this conversation. But that's the piece that we keep coming back to is don't forget to bring yourself along with you. Like, there's things that you leave, there's seasons that you flow through and are no longer, fueling you, as we talked about, energizing you. And they may very well be depleting you, but there's value there. So those skills that you earned for 20 years in broadcasting, in journalism, you can bring into your new career. And it's funny how it flipped on you that you're actually being interviewed, right?
Yes.
But there's a skill to that too.
Yeah.
And you were able to adapt to it. So one of the things that you and I talked about that I've just been thinking about since our conversation, and I think it would be a good way to kind of bring our conversation to a close, is how just like you have a dress that doesn't fit you any longer, right? And it just like tight in a little few spaces and places, and also maybe the style or whatever, that analogy that we have of wearing something and needing to wear a new garment and step into the new, the new Rachel, the new you. Sometimes people don't like that. They're not comfortable with it. Like, that really bothers them. They want Rachel in her little cute black dress with the earrings and the, the stilettos and all of that. They're not comfortable with you in your loafers and your sweatpants. So talk to us about how important it is to surround ourselves ourselves with people who
Right.
are like-minded, who believe in us, who, trust in that process of listening to our gut and,
Yeah.
share with us about that.
What is it that we're told? We are the sum of the 5 people that we spend the most time with,
Yes.
correct?
Mm-hmm.
So I totally believe that is true,
Yes.
because I have clung very hard to other women who've done something similar to me. They've left an established career to start a business and raising children, and that career, unfortunately, was the label that we wore. It's the label that we were married to. I mean, in still many ways, when I tell my story, I'm like, well, I just left a 20-year career and start my business. Just say you started a business. Like, why do you have to qualify it? Like, just say, oh, when you meet someone for the first time, Cyndi, what do you do? The natural thing that we say is, I have my own business, or I am a TV reporter, or I am whatever. Just own it. And
Right.
so when you just own that, and so to get back to what your question was about, when people don't like that, that's probably been the hardest part of this transition, is knowing that there are just some people that I'm not going to, quote, I don't want to say win over. I'm not here to win anyone over. But unfortunately, in the line of work that I was in, it could have been seen as a popularity contest, right? Like, and we live it outwardly. So I've had some fellow journalists who are just cheering for me, supporting me, and excited. And they're like, oh my gosh, what are you doing next? Like, I want to watch your next speaking engagement. I want to see your next, what's the next thing that you're working on? That's exciting. Good for you. And then there's others who are like, best of luck to you, like, and that's hard, because that feels personal, right? It feels like a personal rejection. And maybe it is. You know what? Then find the people that will cheer you on, that can mentor you through that process, that when you win and you run that race and you get to that finish line, they're going to be cheering for you, whether it took you 5 years or 15 years or 30 years, whatever. Those people that you've left behind, that's okay. They were part of that life for you in that season of your life. And I'm saying this now, Cyndi, like whatever, a week later, after I had a real moment where I was like grieving the loss.
Yes.
Grieving the loss. I was grieving the loss of my identity, grieving the loss of those colleagues, or those 20 years of fellow journalists.
Friendships, right?
Yes, relationships that were really focused along the same profession. And that's okay. Like, we all build something for each other at some point in our lives, and you've got to just wish them well. And maybe in 10 years, things will be different and you guys can be cool again. But it's kind of the sad reality, but that's okay. I'm making room for the people in my space who want to run this with me.
Making room for your people.
Yes.
And being able to, I love that you're giving, you're releasing other relationships. Not that they're bad, you've moved on. Mm-hmm. And if they're not comfortable with that, so the thing is that it's not about them not liking you anymore. It's what you're doing is challenging them to have to ask those hard questions.
Yeah.
And they're resisting it. They're like, nope, I'm comfortable here. So whatever the case, God bless them. And I know that's your heart, and that's what I've heard from you. But I relate to that in my life as well. And, it's important to have the courage to move on and move boldly step into who we are being called to be, what we're being called to do. So I love that. So thank you so much for, taking the time to share with our community and sharing your 5 strategies for health and wellness, especially in this time of a pandemic and being shelter in place. Want to be able to set the context for those who are listening afterwards. So any parting words that you have, Rachel, for those who are listening, who are entrepreneurs, solopreneurs, mompreneurs, small business owners, as they make this transition in life, to be aware and awake and alert?
So especially in the pandemic, this is our time to focus on. Look, I gave you 5 strategies, 5 things that you can focus on. Pick one and do it today. How many glasses of water did you drink today? If it's 3, I mean, there's still time in the day to make up. right? It's only 1 in the afternoon. Go
Yes.
for it. That's one thing. Maybe tomorrow maybe you're going to sleep a little bit earlier. Maybe the next day you don't check your phone as soon as you wake up and check the headlines or whatever is happening on Instagram or social media.
Right.
As soon as you wake up. I mean, I do check social media throughout the day, but I just don't do it as soon as I wake up. You know, ask yourself, maybe if I move 10 minutes today and I take a walk around my yard, do it for 10 minutes. And then tomorrow, the next day, do it for 15 until now you've reached 30. I mean, imagine if you just kept building and building and building the consistency, the change that you'll see in your life. You know, if you don't pray, and if meditation is more you, sit in silence for a minute. Just stop for a second, sit down, get quiet for a minute. And the next thing you know, it's 5 minutes, then it's 20, then it's 30, you know. These are things that you can really change in a day. You could do this right now. And then finally, of course, once you've filled your cup, what are the relationships in your life that need a little more attention? I mean, I know today I have a lot of thank you cards to write, samples to send out as thank yous to my customers. I have to pour into them because they are important to me, but I can't pour into them first without the core people in this beautiful home of mine.
That's right.
Yeah. Right. So these are things that you can truly, just after we get off this call, which one is it? Which one of the 5 are you going to do? And do it today. Just that's my parting message. There's 5 you can pick from, probably even 6, maybe 10. I don't know. But those are the 5 that have worked for me, that have made a huge change in my life. And if you picked one and stuck with it for a week or 2 or a year,
right,
what will your life look like?
Right. One thing I'm really present to right now, I love that. Thank you for that recap, is I'm going to call it the X factor. And so the X factor being, put on your calendar, once you accomplish, whether it's 1 or all 5 of those strategies, put an X on your calendar and keep track of that, because there's something really compelling about a chain. And when we keep things going, and we don't, once we get it going, even if it's 3 days, we don't want to break that chain. So for me, I'm doing Duolingo. I minored in Spanish, taught Spanish for years. My Spanish, I haven't used my Spanish. I don't use it regularly. We have some neighbors across the street, and we were negotiating with them about painting our house, and my Spanish was horrendous. And I thought, oh man, I mean, I need to work on this. So I'm doing Duolingo, and they give you these little streaks. So you do a streak, like you do something 1 day or 2 days or 3 days, and you're like, whoo, I got 3 streaks, woo. So, you know, I think that's a good encouragement to us. Whatever we're doing, start on the path, as Rachel mentioned, and keep track of it, because whatever you measure matters. And so, you know, keep track of those things to help you stay accountable on your journey. So thank you, Rachel, for sharing your wisdom with us, your life, being so transparent, and giving us real life examples that, you know, we can, in listening to ourselves, we can position ourselves to be able to be used by God and our, you know, take care of our family, take care of ourselves. I'm so grateful that you did listen to yourself, and for you to be able to share your wisdom with us.
Well, and I look forward to when we can meet live again.
Hugs.
When I can see you and actually be present for all of you.
Yes.
For all of you in person, you know, and not be the exhausted lady that just came from a really long day at work.
Yes. Curtis and I would love to have you and your family over to my garden, have a garden party.
That would be
have
wonderful.
Kids pick strawberries.
That'd be great.
So if any of our listeners want to get in touch with you or learn more about your business, and how can they do that?
So I am offering a complimentary 20-minute consultation, focusing on your skincare, your skin type, what concerns you might have, and any sort of recommendations that I can offer. It's no cost to you at all. You do get a free gift just for coming to those calls, and you can schedule one with me by getting in touch with me by email, which is, and I'll put that right here in the chat. rcalderonyoung@gmail.com. And what you get, again, is a nice analysis of your skin concerns, any sort of recommendation, and then we can talk further if you want to, but there's certainly, no obligation, and it's just information for you to use. I love to be the source of good information, so that's what I try to be.
Yes.
And I don't know, should I put my phone? Well, I'll just put my email there.
Sure.
And then my Instagram, if you want to follow me there, is Rachel Calderon Young. And then Facebook is Rachel Young. So you'll find me there. I mean, everybody that's on this call should be able to find me on Facebook as well, because you clicked in this way. So,
and this replay will be posted on YouTube under our Exceptional Connections channel. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell for the next conversation to connect that will drop. So I want to open this up. So Roxana, can you help me unmute everybody? So we have some of our community on the line, and we want to open up this conversation to others who want to kind of chime in on how Rachel's message and encouragement landed for them. And so raise your hand if you have something you want to share, and Roxana will unmute you.
I wanted to share, thank you, Rachel, for doing this. I really love the part that I want my family to get the best of me, not the last of me. That was such that message just ingrained in my mind. I said, okay, the mission of our lives is to make what's the best for our family, because we want to spend more time and freedom with our family. And by creating that image and your family is getting the last of you, which again, at the end of the day, your job is getting the best of you and your family is getting the last of you. So it just brought a huge image. And thank you so much for, sharing that.
Oh, you're welcome. I'm telling you, you make your message. Sometimes that can help, right?
That's so true. And Roxana, you live that yourself, because she's all about teaching women, empowering women to be able to get grounded in nature and take care of themselves. So Roxana was one of my conversations to connect early on, and she lives that herself. So thank you, Roxana. So anybody else before we close?
Well, I'll make a comment. I think, Rachel, that I'm one of the ones that kind of witnessed this over the last year or so, and I must say I didn't realize the depth of everything that was going on. But I can say this, that the little statement that you made, that your family was getting the leftovers, is very powerful, because your children only have one childhood. And my son is 26, and I remember just a short time ago he was 10, where your son's at. And I am so glad that I made the choice to engage him and what he played ice hockey for 15 years. And at the time I was like, ugh, getting up at 4 a.m, getting home sometimes at 2 a.m, because he was on a traveling team. But now in retrospect, especially hearing what you say, your son is 10 and your daughter's 7. And it's very courageous that you made the right choice. I mean, you'll never ever regret it, ever, and neither will they.
Well, Chuck, thank you for saying that. I knew that I would be okay when I got kind of the permission from my parents. I don't know if you know anything about the Asian community, but man, you got to get permission from your parents to do just about anything, even when you're 42 years old. And
really?
when my mother saw the look in my face and said, "You have nothing left to prove. It's okay." I did the same thing. My mother was an ICU nurse, and my father had a very demanding career as a physician, and she's like, "I can't keep up with this with 2 kids and working in the ICU," and of course she went through that whole value, what value do I bring to the world if I'm not healing bodies, if I'm not a nurse. And I went through that too. And I think we have to ask ourselves, what value do we bring the world when we're half empty running around? I don't care, you have to ask yourself, how are you able to how were you able to help your son if you didn't make that conscious choice to say, you know what, these are tough times to wake up, but he's going to be 26 before I know it.
Yeah.
So you made the right choice too, Chuck. Good job.
Yeah, but you don't actually think of it then.
No, you don't.
But now that he's 26, I realize what a short time ago he was 10.
Yeah.
But if I didn't do that, it'd be too late. So I give you have a lot of courage to do the right thing.
Thank you.
It happens in a blink of an eye. They grow up and they get married and they have grandkids. Or they have kids that make us grandparents. So I've lived it myself. So, well, thank you, Rachel. Thank you so much for your time, for sharing so authentically with us, and for this journey, sharing your journey and your coming out the other side and being, just this radiant light that you are. So really appreciate you. Thanks for being on our Conversations to Connect, Let's Get Real. And we wish you well.
Thank you.
Bye, everybody. Thanks for being on the call.